Hello, welcome back. This video is about Jupyter. So we will be learning what Jupyter is and why we need to use. Let's go to the official Jupyter website. And it says here that Jupyter is the free software, open standards and web services for interactive computing across all programming language. So Jupyter actually comes in two versions. One is JupyterLab, which is the next generation notebook interface. And we have the classic Jupyter notebook. So in this video, we will be mainly going through the JupyterLab, but I will show you how the classic Jupyter interface also looks like. The main question is why, right? Here it says that the Jupyter supports over 40 programming languages. That's really good. And then we can share the notebook so that if you do something, you can share it with your colleagues or your friends. And it has the interactive output as well as it has big data integration. Okay, so great. Let's now go into the Jupyter interface and see how it looks like. There are many ways from which you can start a Jupyter server. Here, what you are seeing in the screen is the GitHub code space. I will be using GitHub code space to run the Jupyter Lab server. But if you want to do it locally, because it runs on the browser, so you can install locally and run in your local host. If you prefer doing that, I have another video where I have installed Jupyter on my local machine and open in the local host. So you can follow that. I will put the link in the description. But here we are using GitHub code space. I have already made a video about GitHub code space if you want to know in-depth details about what GitHub code space is. So here you can see there are many templates, and as we are going to learn Jupyter in this video, here we have Jupyter notebook template already ready for us. What we can do is we can use this template. Let's click this, use this template. And what it does now, it spawns up a container for us where the Jupyter server will be already running. But you can see here that once we open the template, it opens the VS Code interface. So that's the default behavior of GitHub code space, that when we spawn up some templates, it opens up in the VS Code. We can code here because VS Code also has the Jupyter notebook inside it. For example, if you go to the notebook, you can see there are some notebooks here, and you can even create a notebook with, let's say, test.ipyn. If you provide ipynb, IPython notebook, then you can have a Jupyter notebook already inside the VS Code. But I prefer Jupyter Lab server. So for that, you can just cancel this. And if you refresh the code space now, you can see that there is a new container being created, and that is active at the moment. So what you can do is you can go in the three dots and open in, and you can go to open in Jupyter Lab. So we will go through this. So now it switches from VS Code to the Jupyter Lab. This is how it looks when the Jupyter Lab is reloaded. So here we can, okay, say something, we can say no for now. The first time you see here, it looks like a IDE, right? So here on the left side, we have some icons here. And on the top, we have the normal things like file, edit, view, and all the stuffs. But some of the items here, for example, it's go to kernel, it's grayed out here, right? Because not all the functionality will be appearing here before we write some code. So the best thing, I think, is to go and write some on the UI and see how all the different buttons and what they do. So in the beginning, let's say that we are going to create a notebook, right? We create a IPython notebook. So it says IPy It uses the IPy kernel and Python 3. As we know that Jupyter Labs supports many programming language. In this case, we are using Python 3 and the IPy kernel. So here, as we open the new notebook, it opens in this format. You can, if you want to rename this, you can go here and rename, let's give it test IPython. So then it renames here, and there are different icons here. But first, let's go through something. If you type hash and let's say that this is Jupyter server in the GitHub code space. And then how to run this, right? So here is the icon called run. Let's see what happens if we just type this and run. It does nothing. It just runs the shell and it creates the new shell below, but it does not output something, right? So the main part, the Jupyter Lab has two parts. One is where you can write the documentation, that is the markdown, and the next one is where you write the code. So the hash means that we want to write some markdown, but if you see here, we are in the code format. So we can change this to markdown, and now it changes color. And now if we run this, you see that it runs the markdown for us. This is how it works. And we can have as many markdowns. So we can modify the markdowns as our wish. For example, let's say that we want to have some subheadings. We can have two hash, and let's say that we want to learn Jupyter. And the good part is you can even have the numbered 1 dot, this is number 1, and you can say 2 dot, this is number 2, and 3 dot, this is number 3. So if you run the code now, we see that we have a heading, we have a subheading, and then we have numbered list here. So this is how we can write the markdown. The good part is this is the markdown and how to write the code. So if we go here, we can say let's write print hello world, and then let's run this. To run this, you can just go here and click the run button. It says hello world. So you can see that we can write some code and it just prints below that cell, and we can even write the documentation. Now we have written something like documentation and the code. Now all the other buttons here that I said before, they are not grayed out, right? So now let's go through the UI and see what all the buttons does. So here on the top, it says the folder icon. If you press the folder icon, it will maximize the window. So the folder icon, it will again minimize it. And then here on the next one, it opens up the tab where it says what it is opened or what is currently running now. The good part of JupyterLab and Jupyter Notebook is there is terminal integrated into it. Let's say that we want to have a new terminal. So what we can do, we can go to File and then New and Terminal. So we are on the terminal, and as you can see now here on the tabs, open tabs, it shows here the terminals also. So here we can just write where we are, like pwd, and it works as expected. Let me make this little bit bigger. Okay. So now the next one here is the Git integration. The good part of JupyterLab is that if you do something, here it says there are 2 untracked files. So if you don't know what is Git, let's not go through this now. But the good part of JupyterLab is that the Git is already integrated. So you can add, commit and push already from the JupyterLab into your GitHub or Git or some other Git repositories. And here there is a table of contents also. This is why I write some code here and then explain you, because we can see all the functionality. Here we have written the heading 1, it appears here, and then we have the heading 2, it appears here. So, but this is the markdown, right? But what if you want to have the numbered headings and subheadings? It's really simple. You don't need to go and change in the notebook, but just from here, you can click this 1, 2, 3 icons, toggle auto numbering. If you click this, you can see that it changes here as well as here. It says 1.1. Now let's say that we want to create a new heading here. Let's go here, and then here is the plus icon. If you click plus, it opens up the new shell. And let's say that we want to type import libraries. And then we need to change this to markdown, right? And then if we run this, it gives number 2, and then it appears here. And the good part is that you can click this and it expands. Let's say that you have lots of heading and subheading. The good part of this is that you can just click on this and it gives you that part of the heading. And the next one we have here is the extensions. So we can install as many extensions as we want. Let's say that we want to enable this. And I hope this now we have the light theme, right? Let's say that we want to enable this. So this will enable the extensions and we can source as many extensions as we want. So now this is all done with the Jupyter, with the sidebars. Now let's go on the top. We have file. So on the file, we have all the normal stuff that we have on the files, right? What to do with the notebook that we have written. And there is the edit here where we can undo, redo, and paste, delete all the things, clear output, and all these things. And there is the view. As you can go through all this. There is the run, because as we run the notebook here, right? Let's say that we want to run this again. We press from here, right? We run this, but we can also go here on the run button. It says run selected cells. And the good part is that we can run all the cells. And we can restart and run all cells also. That means that it will restart the kernel and then run all the cells. We can do this already from here also. This is the restart button. If you restart this, it says the restart the kernel. Yes, no, let's not do now. And this is another thing which says restart the kernel and run all the cells. So it will run all the cells for us. Let's not do for that now. So there is the Git integration, there is the tabs, and there is the settings. If you want to do, for example, let's say you want to increase the font, decrease the font, and all the different things you can do from the settings. And let's go through the button here. It says the first one, it says here is the save. So one thing I recommend you to do is constantly save your, so it does not, so if something happens, you will still get what you have written or what you have done, right? So you can save this. It will save a copy or checkpoints behind the scene. And then there is the plus icon. We already went to create a new shell. There is the seizure icon, which is we can quote the cell. Let's say that we have this active here. If we click this, it deletes that. And the next one is the copy. Let's say that we want to copy this. And if we want to paste, there is this called paste. So we have it paste just below that cell where we copied from. So this is where we can change from markdown to code. And one good part here is that you even have the debugger. So enable debugger. If you are used to of debugging things in normal IDE, then you can also do that in the JupyterLab. Now let's say that we want to do some visualizations on the JupyterLab itself. Let's go to Google and then let's type Seaborn plot examples. Let's go to the gallery and we want to plot something like this, KDE plot. Let's copy the code and paste this. So let's run this from here. Now we are importing the C1 library, also the matplotlib library here. And then we are setting the theme here for the SNS C1. We are loading the dataset, which is already present in the C1 library itself. We are taking the data and then we are plotting the KDE plot. So as you see, after this runs, we have the visualizations just below the shell. Let's say that we want to write something now here, what the plot is about, right? We can say, okay, maybe we want to have the heading 3 and we can say this chart looks great, right? And then the good part of this is you can have asterisk asterisk and you can write really great and asterisk asterisk. This will bold the letters. To run this, first we need to change it to markdown and then we can run this. So you see that this chart looks great and really great. And if you go to the table of contents, here we can see that, okay, we want to launch Jupyter. This chart looks great. Let's write here conclusion, and then let's change these to markdown, and then let's run this. So here we have the conclusion. So this is how you can explore the JupyterLab. You can write on the top, you can say what you are going to do, and then you can write some documentations. You can also plot some visualizations and explain what that visualization does or what the visualization is. And at last, you can write the conclusions, okay, what you did in this notebook. So it acts as a storytelling board. Let's click this for now just to show you. Now you see that it opens a new debugger window for us. And then in front here, there is the red dots. So you can have any breakpoints. Let's say that we want to have the breakpoint here. And let's say that we want to run all the cells. We run all cells. So now if you see, it runs all. And then here is the debugger. And then here we have all the general stuffs that we have when we debug something. So we can say, okay, let's continue. So it continues. So you can go through all the things. If you want to go to the debugger, you can click here, or here is also one icon here. It opens. But if you want to start the debugger, you need to press this so that it all appears here. If you want to close the debugger, just click this. And if you want to minimize this window or make this main window bigger, you can just click this debugger sign here on the right side, and then it goes. So let's see how the classic Jupyter notebook looks like. So if you go to the help tab on the top, and there is this thing called launch classic notebook. Let's click this. So it opens in the new tab in the Google Chrome. So you can see here the UI looks a little bit different. So here you can see all the files that we have, and it says in the green here the test IPython, because this is the file where we are actually running the code. And here you can see what is running in the Jupyter right now. So we have one terminal and one file, and what cluster we have. So we don't have any clusters here. So this is how it works. And let's say that you want to have a terminal already opened here. So how can you do that? You can go to this new, you can just click the terminal. It opens in the new tab all the time. So this is the difference between classic Jupyter notebook and the JupyterLab, because in classic Jupyter notebook, everything opens in a new tab, but in the JupyterLab, we have everything in a UI fashion so that we can have the tabs already inside the JupyterLab itself. So all the other things are similar. So here, if you want to go inside the notebook, you can click here, and then all the buttons here are the same. Here you have file, edit, all the things that we have in the JupyterLab also. And then all the buttons here, save, adding the new notebook, and then cutting the notebook and all. Let's say we want to run this, we can just run, we can run as we want, as we did in the JupyterLab. So it's almost similar. It's up to you which one you want to use, but I prefer using JupyterLab. Let's talk about keyboard shortcuts, because what we did now was we click on the icons in the JupyterLab UI, right? But you can achieve the same things with the keyboard shortcut also. Let's say that we are on this cell here, which is 4 in front of this one. But by the way, before I go to the shortcut, the number that you see in front of the cell indicates which cell you run first. It might be confusing in the JupyterLab sometimes, because, for example, let's say that I restart the notebook. I run this cell first. Let's say that I want to run this cell first, and then I want to go back. You see here the number changes to 1. It's not necessary that you run all the cells from top to bottom in JupyterLab as we do in the normal IDE. It might be confusing in the beginning, but this is what the JupyterLab is good at, because you can do experiments as you go. So you don't need to run all the way from the top. Now let's talk about shortcuts. Let's see that we are on this 4 cell, on the cell which says that there is 4 indicating. We want to have a new cell on top of this. By the way, when I click inside the cell, it means that I am on the edit mode. where the keyboard, where the cursor is blinking there, and the border changes to blue. So if you type escape, now we are on the command mode. You need to remember this when using the shortcuts. Now let's say that I want to insert a new shell on top of this shell. I need to press escape, which brings me to the command mode, and then you can type A on the keyboard, which creates a new shell above that particular shell. And let's say that I want to have one cell below this, same as before. Now we are on the edit mode. Remember that. If you press escape, it will go to the command mode. And if you type B, which says below, it will create a new shell below. Now let's say that you want to delete the cell. There is a shortcut to do that. Now we are on the command mode. So we can type DD, which deletes that cell. Let's say that we want to also delete this empty shell. We can type escape on the command mode, and we can type TD on the keyboard, and it deletes that cell. Another really handy shortcut is, because in Jupyter Notebook it's about writing code and writing documentation, right? Before, what we did, if we want to change this to markdown, we went here and changed to markdown, right? But let's say that we want to do that via a keyboard shortcut. Let's create a new shell, escape A, it creates a new shell. And if you want to go inside that, you can press enter. And let's write something. Let's say that we want to write, this is test of keyboard shortcut. This is now in the code mode. This is what we want to write as a documentation, meaning that this is a markdown. What you can do, again, escape, and if you press M on the keyboard, it changes to the markdown, and you can type shift enter to run the shell. So it runs the shell and it goes one step below shell. But if you just want to be on that shell, let's say that you want to run the shell and still be on that shell, you want to type escape and control enter. If you see, it runs the shell, but you are still on that shell. And let's say that you want to change this into not the markdown, but the code. How can you do? You are in the command mode. You can type Y on the keyboard, and then let's remove this. And then you can run shift enter. So this works as a code, but we didn't write any code. It is showing some errors. So this is also really good that it throws the error right below the shell, so you know what is wrong inside that. So let's say that we write print test. Now this is code. You can type shift enter and it prints below the shell. Let's say that you want to navigate through the file. You can have the keyboard up and down keys. Let's say that I want to go up. You can press the up arrow, it goes up. If you want to go down, you can just press the down arrow. It takes you where you want. Let's say that now you are done with writing the code, but you want to share this code with somebody else. So what you can do is, on the file section, there is this download button. So you can download this in the IPython notebook, or you can even print it. There is a print option. You can print, and you say that it looks like a notebook. And also there is the option to save and export as. So you can export it as HTML file or even markdown. And even there is the option for PDF, and you can see there are many other options. So once you are done with coding, you can export your notebook in any of the formats that it is mentioned here. So it's really handy to share it with other friends also. Let's say that now you are done with the coding, you need to close the JupyterLab, right? So how you can do that is, if you go to File, and then here it says log out and sort down. So you can do the sort down. It says, do you want to sort down? Yes, sort down. Now it is the server which is running inside the GitHub code space is now stopped. If we are back in our GitHub code space, we can see that our container is still running. Although our Jupyter server, which was running inside the container, was stopped, the container is still running. So this container stops after some time if it is inactive. But if we want to stop by ourselves, you can create these 3 dots and then stop the code space, and then now it's stopped. So let's say in the future at some point you want to come back and continue the same thing that you did in the Jupyter lab. You can come back here and start this, open this in the Jupyter lab, then you are ready to go. Yeah, this is all I want to show you in this video. I hope you like this video. If you like, please press the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It motivates me to create such contents in the future. Thank you and see you in the next video.